Welcome back. I'm Melissa Harris-Perry. In a week when the antics of Justin Bieber dominated headlines, it's easy to forget that not all artists give in to the downside of celebrity. Accused of breaking the law and resisting arrest, some use their position to resist injustice and inequality. Take Bono of U2, who has launched both Project Red in Africa to combat AIDS and One, which helps to fight poverty and preventable disease. Or Alicia Keys, who co-founded Keep a Child Alive, which has raised millions of dollars for AIDS patients around the world. These are high-profile reminders that the artist has always played a unique and crucial role in advancing the political and social goals of democracy. Because artists push the boundaries of convention, because they demand to be seen and heard, because they can create substance out of nothingness, and because they have a distinct interpretive capacity, artists are indispensable to activism. One artist in particular embodies these truths. In the 1950s, he formed a friendship with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and became a well-known voice in the civil rights struggle. He used his celebrity to keep a spotlight on the challenges of the African continent, whether as a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF, campaigning against apartheid in South Africa, or initiating the We Are the World effort to help alleviate famine in Ethiopia. At nearly 87 years of age, he has not slowed down a bit because there is still work to be done. In July of last year, he joined the Dream Defenders at the Florida State Capitol in Tallahassee as they demanded that Governor Rick Scott call a special session to address the Stand Your Ground law, racial profiling, and massive incarceration of young people in the state. And earlier this month, he announced a new focus for his work, ending violence and oppression against women worldwide. This past Monday, on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, while giving the keynote address at the University of Michigan campus in Ann Arbor, he questioned whether Americans have lost our moral compass, citing our nation's prison system as an example. And I am honored to welcome Mr. Harry Belafonte, artist, activist, humanitarian, and inspiration to all of us, who recently founded the Sankofa Justice and Equity Fund, a nonprofit organization that utilizes the power of culture and celebrity in partnership with activism. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me about Sankofa.
Last year, I had occasion to give a speech at the NAACP Image Awards. And in that speech, I spoke to my fellow artists, which was quite a number gathered, and spoke to the issues of art and social responsibility. And I challenged my colleagues to man up, to step up to the plate and become more engaged in deeper social issues. In that critique and in that moment, several artists on the spot, led by Jamie Foxx and others, stepped to the plate and said, we accept that we have been less than vigilant in our responsibilities, and we would like to join in a force to begin to push for issues that need to be brought to the public attention.
And I want to put a peg in it there for just a moment, because this is not about charitable giving. This is about social justice work. And often when we think about artists, we think about them as wealthy and giving a portion of their wealth to charitable giving. But this, your call in Sankofa is for a deeper kind of engagement.
Yes, I think the artists have a platform, they have a power, they have a gift. And by using that gift and that power and putting it in the service of those who are being ground out by inequity and by systems that are unjust, we begin to put a light and a new dynamic into what it is that's going on with the poor, going on with those who are racially oppressed, sexually abused. And by doing this, we have heightened the consciousness of people who are being constantly distracted from taking a deeper look at what goes on in our social issues. And by asking the artists to look at this possibility in the use of their power, we find that more often than not, society is rewarded. I think the number of artists that stepped to the plate to do all of the things that we did during the civil rights movement, Joan Baez, Mahalia Jackson, Paul Robeson, Bob Dylan, all those artists brought their power to the table to talk about peace, against the war in Vietnam, about civil rights, and then eventually the arts community did a lot to focus on women's issues, and we found that with the artist's voice, our society was more informed. Now today we have these issues that are The right wing is very clever in the way it uses its power to become divisive and to become somewhat was abusive of the power of communication to blur what our issues are. Artists can shape that in a new discourse.
And one of the key issues that you have identified as one that grinds people into oblivion almost is our prison industrial complex. I want to play a short clip of MSNBC's Ari Melber in conversation with Eric Holder, our Attorney General, discussing the cost of massive incarceration to communities. Let's take a quick listen.
This mass incarceration happens with a cost. If you look at the way it impacts certain communities, and let's be honest about this, communities of color, where young men who should be the future of these communities are taken out, labeled, then have inabilities to obtain good employment, to be the kinds of productive citizens that they might be.
So this is our Attorney General saying in communities of color, young men lose the opportunity to fully realize themselves because of mass incarceration. How can artists intervene in that?
When we had done that broadcast last year in California, the very next day, Jamie Foxx, without any formality, got on a plane, flew to New York, and participated in Union Square, excuse me, participated in Union Square on a rally defending and putting light on the issues of what happened to Trayvon Martin. His presence caught instant press attention. A lot of people began to stay focused. He brought huge resources to the table, and there was a consciousness. You could almost equate it tangibly. By doing this, he also reached out and influenced others. People like Chuck D and Common, all the rappers got into it. We had a huge meeting here in New York. About 60 of the leading artists in the rap culture showed up, and he said, what can we do? And we decided that in looking at a number of events and things that we could be participants in, that put a light on it, we decided to throw our major resource and our first major attempt at using this power to uplift human understanding around the issues of women. We are now working with Eva Enslot. I call her Eve Onslaught.
And the 1 billion rising.
And the 1 billion rising, the issues affecting women, and the role that men play in this cruel situation which women find themselves. And we talked to de Blasio here in New York. We're going to go to Central Park the first warm day in this summer. And we will have a huge, massive cultural outpouring to talk on issues that affect women, which is directly related, because we talk about men in prison, we very rarely talk about the number of women who are in prison.
I keep, as you talk about this space that can be created by artists into which politics can occur, I am reminded that if we go back and look at the visual images of 1939 of Marian Anderson standing at the feet of the Lincoln Memorial singing, right there, because the Daughters of the American Revolution would not allow her to perform in Constitution Hall. And so she stands there in 1939. If you then look at those same images in 1963 of Dr. King in that same space delivering the I Have a Dream speech, you realize, oh my, this cultural moment, right, this performance actually makes space for the activism that then comes behind it almost 20 years later. So your point about Jamie Foxx or Common or Chuck D being able to bring the cameras, being able to clear the landscape where then the political organizing can occur.
That's precisely what our mission is. You know, Paul Robeson once said that artists are the gatekeepers of truth. We are civilization's radical voice. And I think without voices that live outside the box, that can say and comment on life with no hidden agenda other than human care and human welfare, nobody possesses that authority better than do artists. And I think that when you see what artists say, most of our constituency trusts our voices. And by using that voice, I think we can heighten social awareness on issues that are usually codified whether it's people from the right and people from the left in a debate, we usually talk about things that take us off issue. Artists can keep us on issue.
As soon as we come back, we'll take a quick break, but I want to push this a little bit and talk about the intergenerational nature of this kind of activism, because it seems to me that if artists are our great gatekeepers of truth, then the destruction of art programs in our public school is not only bad for our cultural life, but particularly and possibly awful for our democracy. And I want to push more on that as we come back in just a moment.